See, I hate the fact that YouTube deleted my other channel because I did a video 3 years ago about Australia's interference in our election and how through MI5, MI6, and other nefarious orgs and their private paramilitary, and this company called ISIS Inc. Please go to my video, America Meet ISIS. It's one of the first videos I did about these private paramilitary organizations that skate in underneath the cover of the bad guy in cooperation with law enforcement. Dirty money that has disappeared through the CIA. And I was told, what do you think? So let's listen to this very carefully, shall we? Because this is about to not only validate me, but piss you off, blow your doors off. Oops.
Sits down with a former CIA officer to talk about that investigation. We're here with Brad Johnson, Americans for Intelligence Reform. Thank you so much for coming back on. One of the last times we had you on, we did our big 30-minute Las Vegas special, and we're doing an update today. More information. We've got the full report. You've been going through it. You've done some more of your own looking into this, your own analysis. What have you got for us, and thanks for coming back.
Jack, so nice to see you again, and great to be here. Yes, we're just on the heels of the one-year anniversary of the shooting in Las Vegas, the mass shooting in Las Vegas, and also the final police report has come out. And there's a number of interesting things in there that have been sort of glossed over that are worth bringing to everyone's attention. One of them is within the body of the reports that the police collected, that law enforcement collected during this, was a report by a young lady who is a DHS, TSA employee, so Department of Homeland Security, TSA.
This woman rocks. This is why we need more real women in law enforcement in the capacity of intuition-based diagnostics, analysis, and, consulting. Because women can see things that dudes in suits don't. I don't mean wannabe women. I mean real women. And this is what they want you to stop, is trusting your gut. Listen very carefully to what this awesome CIA agent says. I am not saying the CIA is bad, the organization. I don't like what they do. A lot of them. These rogue agents that go off on their own and decide they don't have to obey the law, or retire out of the CIA and go private paramilitary, those are the ones I have an issue with. Like that guy, the Saw Man, one of those.
Which are the folks at the airport. So she's got training that is clearly apparent in her report. Now, I've reached out to the young lady that did this, and she's asked me not to use her name, so I will not. But she was, as you noticed, a trained federal employee who happened to be there and observed something very interesting. In the official police report, the final report that just came out, they stated that no evidence exists to indicate Paddock conspired with or acted in collusion with anyone else. Right. No evidence exists. That's their claim. Now, at 9:20 p.m., this is when this TSA woman observed this to take place. She gives a very nicely detailed report. She describes two women at the back of the concert. The two women are standing on top of the bale of hay, and where they have a good vantage point to look down on the backs of the crowd facing towards the performer. The first woman says, Those stupid effing white people, they are going to know how it feels. They deserve this. Wait until later. And this is about a half hour before the shooting begins. The second woman, woohoo! Like shooting fish in a barrel. Are you getting this, baby? I love you. Now, the woman that says, are you getting this, baby, is standing with her phone, live streaming from the back of the concert what's going on. Now, while that is not conclusive proof, it's decidedly suspicious and has not been followed up on. Now, a couple of other things that came out of that, and one of them I want to go to next since we're kind of on the timeline issue. So this takes place at 21:20, 9:20 p.m., and now, during that period, there's no information as to what Stephen Paddock, the shooter, was doing in that room. Now, he was already located in the room.
Sorry about the coffee
where the
pot.
shooting took place at 32135 and 32134, the two rooms that he used.
And he's building up his barricades now in these rooms.
Correct. He's clearly in the final stages of preparing to start shooting. So at 21:36, so at 9:36, which is, 16 minutes or so after this bale of hay incident, he throws the deadbolt. Now, this is all kept track of by the hotel, so they see when rooms are accessed and when the deadbolt is thrown on their in-house computer system.
So we got the door access security program.
Exactly right. So at 21:36, he throws the deadbolt to 32135. Now, this is very important. 10 minutes go by. In the middle of those 10 minutes, the concert begins. Now, as we've discussed before, these were connecting rooms. 32135 and 32134 were connecting with an interior door. So the 135 door was not opened. Precisely 10 minutes later, the deadbolt was thrown to 134. So that's from the inside. So that is absolute conclusive proof with no doubt whatsoever, because 32135 was not opened again, that interior door was used to throw the deadbolt on 134, or there was a second person in there to do it. There is no other way. So that interior door, fast forward a half hour or so after the shooting, Paddock's dead. The police breach the door to 32135, find Paddock's dead body. They themselves, the police, could not get into 134. They tried to kick through the door, couldn't do it, and had to breach the door so that they could enter 134. That deadbolt on the passage door between the two rooms was deadbolted from the 134 side. Now, we know...
Okay, so let me, because he's going really, really fast, let me explain from the perspective of somebody who has grown up in that town with a father who worked the gaming industry for 60 years, who was personal friends with Steve Wynn, who shot a hole-in-one at Shadow Creek Golf Course. I think there's a giraffe in the background in the picture. My dad, from the time he got out of the Navy after the Korean War, mostly worked casinos in Vegas. So, I know for a fact that growing up in the 70s, there were cameras everywhere. Everywhere. The technology they have today, there are scanners in those casinos that when you walk by, it's like you're going through the TSA. There are cameras that can zoom in so close to your purse that they can see the name of the lipstick. They do this because for a long time, Las Vegas kept getting robbed. That was in the 70s and the 80s. And during the 90s and the early 2000s, people were jumping over into the cages, so they changed all that. There are key cards that only people in the penthouse suites or certain floors get. Every level in those hotels, you get a different card, depending on your status as a player. People people are saying, how did he get all those guns into the room? Because they took them through the elevator. That's a service. When you hit the key, it will only do or go certain floors. There's an elevator strictly for the penthouse. The technology they have today is so beyond your comprehension, because most people still think of Vegas, like it's the 1980s. And you don't understand that when you use your key card, literally, they know everything you're doing. They can match you up through the RFID in the card to where you are in the casino if they wanted to find you. So the very fact that they are trying to tell you this guy got all this shit up into an elevator and nobody smelled anything like gun oil, or, they didn't hear the things rattling around in there. He packed it so well, you wouldn't feel the weight lifting those, heavy equipment. That's heavy. Guns are heavy. And any employee that's going to allow that kind of shit, I don't care. Gun shows happen all the time in Vegas. Don't use that excuse on me, because when that kind of equipment comes through, it's usually stored within the hotel security. They have special, locked rooms for that, where you can store shit in the vault if you want. There are special parking places in the casino that's kind of like built like a vault if your car is like over $100,000. There are tunnels under Vegas. So when people say, well, how did he get all the guns up there? He had help.
That prior to the shooting, that door either had to be open so that Paddock could go through and lock the 134 door to the hallway, or somebody else was in that room. It has to be one of the two. There's no other way. That has to be investigated and followed up on. Now, in that room, too, another interesting point out of all of that, 2 computers were found. One of those computers had the hard drive missing. That was removed from it. Well, why would you bring a laptop to the room to do a shooting that already had that hard drive removed? That doesn't make sense. So it's logical that that was removed at the time and somebody took it away. It's hard to prove things like that, but it's an interesting little side aspect.
Well, if he knew that he was going to conduct the attack, then obviously he was willing to give himself up. So why try to protect himself if he knew he was doing that?
Exactly. It just makes no sense for this to have played out that way. So there's a lot of questions. To make the statement in the police report that there's no evidence is a falsehood. There's clearly evidence, and the evidence wasn't followed up on. And let me come back to one other point that we've discussed previously, and that's Brian Hodges, the Australian that in the several hours following the mass shooting claimed to have been in room 32134.
And this is via multiple social media posts that were made. Then
I
following
told
up on that,
you.
because of those posts, he was interviewed numerous times on mostly Australian media, and during those interviews claimed that he was in that room.
Correct.
That had been his room.
Radio and television interviews that he later did that were in Australia. Now, an interesting point out of all that, he claims to have been in room 32134. In room 32134 were another pair of gloves found. These were initially reported in the initial police report, but were not reported on. That's been dropped out of the final police report. Now, interesting aspect. Now, Paddock himself, when his body was found, had gloves on. So what were those second pair of gloves doing? And they weren't brand new gloves unused
OJ.
that are like smashed down from packing. These are gloves that had hands in them and then were dropped on the bed in room 32134. So interesting, but certainly evidence of a second person being there. I don't see how you describe that as any other way than evidence. Is it conclusive? No. But you start stacking these things up, and there's a lot of questions that are not answered as to this mass shooting with 58 dead people and over 800 wounded, according to the final police report.
Still the largest mass shooting in American history.
Ever.
And obviously, the families of all those who lost loved ones in this want some kind of closure and want some answers, and this report isn't giving them very much.
It is not giving them what they need. This closure cannot take place until all of these things you and I are talking about are run down. Another final area out of all of this that's kind of interesting on this is how the police source some of the information. It's come out that they cannot identify a motive, and that they don't think it's political. But two things I want to say about that. One, Paddock started buying all these guns that he used in the shooting when Trump was elected.
Yep.
And over the 8 months or so, put all of this arsenal together. Which
I told you.
An interesting quirk of timing that is not given any significance. And the concert itself, too, was widely regarded as a country. It was a country western concert that was widely regarded as being full of Trump supporters. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. It was still regarded that way, and very reasonable for Paddock to have regarded it that way as well. So the source that says that Stephen Paddock was not political is his girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley. That's the source. Now, the police referenced his family members, but all of them had been estranged from him mostly for more than a decade, so they didn't know, and said in their reports they didn't know. So the source of the information saying he was non-political was only Mary Lou Danley, who was widely believed to be the more radical leftist of the two. Now, another very interesting point about Mary Lou Danley, we've talked about Brian Hodges and how he claimed to be in the room, the shooter's room, 32134. He was at least on that floor as a guest in his own right, and was supposed to have been checked into 32129, which 32 designates floor, 1 indicates the hallway, and then his room is 29, and it was 34 and 35. So he was very near where the shooting took place. Why would he have not been questioned just anyway? But he was not, having been somebody supposedly on that floor, and then later to have claimed to have been in the room. So Brian Hodges is Australian.
I told
Brian Hodges
you.
Claimed in his own information talking about himself, he claimed at one time to have worked in a casino called the Star Casino, Star Gold Coast Casino, which is located at Gold Coast in Australia. Now, very interesting, Mary Lou Danley, who's been widely reported to have also been a dealer at the casino, also said about herself that she previously worked in the Star Gold Coast Casino. Now, I dutifully looked up the Star Gold Coast Casino, and it's in an area of Australia called Gold Coast, and there's precisely one casino there, and that's the Star Casino. There are other casinos a half hour away and things like that, but that's the only casino in that location. Now, for Brian Hodges and Mary Lou Danley, who both claimed to have worked there in the same period of time, they would have known each other. It's a small family of dealers that are there, and they all know each other from their shifts and so on. It would have been very difficult for them not to have at least known each other by sight.
I want you to think very hard. Those of you that remember my channel, remember I put out the Hillary Clinton emails. Think about the fact that Cappy is talking to some LARP in Australia. Think really hard about the connection from Australia to the Philippines and child trafficking. Think about what I told you, if you remember the video I did on this, about the fact that the Paddock family is connected to dirty FBI. They're also connected to drug trafficking, child pedophilia, and that house that got, burglarized in Reno. Remember in my video, if you remember when this happened, because I was supposed to be at that concert, and instead I had to take an intervention that was maybe 20 miles away from where the concert was happening. I gave you guys, I'll try to look for the videos, but I think they were on the Rumpkin News 1 channel. I gave you guys the day after, and then I drove over to where Paddock's house was, where he was allegedly living. I think it was in Utah. And the whole street was blocked off. You couldn't get in. And everybody was acting really weird. There was all these weird, like, black SUV vehicles. And so I came back with that video, letting you guys know what the update was. And I told you this, the day before, a bunch of Russian guys came in through Nellis Air Force Base. The real reason for this and Lombardo's lies is because if the American people found out that the left party is not just in the country of USA, but it is the leftist globalist party, where they are literally, Bernie Sanders just got busted having Australians come over and help him work on the Democratic campaign in the United States. And when I told you guys this, they said I was crazy. I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. And I knew for a fact that this either had to do with the Saudis because of the prince that lived upstairs on the floor above, that he owned all those floors. Why would the old Saudi regime not want Trump in? Think about it. This was a hit by the DNC. Plain and simple. And Sheriff Lombardo knew that if that was what really came out, there would be a fucking civil war.
At the very minimum. And then later, interesting, Brian Hodges shows up where Mary Lou Danley is then now dating Stephen Paddock. So that's never been investigated either. How can, even to this day, we be at this situation where Brian Hodges has not been questioned by authorities? How can that be? There's just too many links to the shooting for him not to be questioned.
Brad, thank you so much for coming in today. Thank you so much for giving us this sort of...
It's not even that. Did the DNC use Paddock, whose father was one of the 10 most wanted on the FBI wanted list, but turned state confidential informant? His girlfriend was an FBI confidential informant. This was an inside job by our own people with the help of the left party coming from MI5, MI6, Crown British intelligence, where Hillary Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, Bill Clinton, and the rest of these globalist child-eating monsters were terrified that their shipping of children, refugees from their wars they create, would suddenly be impeded. So they tried to assassinate, and did assassinate, Americans. What makes you think they won't do it again? Hillary Clinton just declared war on you. You better wake up.